One and all, welcome back to Illustrated by DeForrest, where I'm on screen today, so I must have something special for you. So if you remember the last episode, I went through the basics of color for digital artists. You have the RGB method, you have the HSL method. There's only one of those that I recommend. Go back and watch the episode if you don't know which. And I'm sure you remember a few months back I also demonstrated how to draw an eye. Well, today I'm going to be showing you how to color an eye. My name is DeForrest and I will be your host. And I have some examples of some eyes here. You can see all the different layers over here. As you can see, I have a completely finished and sketched out eye right here. It's from one of my previous demonstrations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is on multiply. Let's see here. Yep, it's on the multiply blend mode. So if you start off with a completely white background and you just draw pixels on top of that, if you want to just get rid of that white background, this will make everything that is white transparent. But fortunately, this layer is just the pixels that I drew, so I don't really have to worry about that too much, but that's just something I wanted to point out. I have a blank layer right behind it, and also that multiply will help make that a little bit transparent for some of the lighter shades. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take a brush. I have it set on hard round right here, and it's blue. Now this blue is just a little bit too saturated. As you can see right here, I have it on HSB, which is slightly different from the HSL I spoke about in the last episode, but the process isn't really too much different, so I wouldn't worry so much. I'm going to turn the saturation down. I'm also going to turn the brightness down. We don't want to start off completely saturated because what we want to do is slowly add in that brightness as we go along, and also have a somewhat of a midpoint if we want to darken the colors just as much. So we're going to go about around the 30s right here for the brightness. Saturation, I'm actually going to turn it down just a little bit more. Hue, that's just going to use this particular blue right there. And what I'm going to do is on the layer that's underneath this layer right here, I am going to take this and just start coloring in right underneath that layer. Just going to start by going in the edges. So I'm just going to go ahead and color in the entirety of the iris. Okay, so we got that completely filled in. Doesn't really look that good. I actually colored in some of the parts that are actually supposed to be light reflected, so the eye shines, which is fine. We can we're going to go back and erase that stuff a little bit later. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to slowly turn the brightness up and turn the saturation up just a little bit, and we're going to do that inside the iris. Because remember, the eye is a bit of a dome. That's how contact lenses work. If you close your eyes and you actually feel around on top of your iris and your pupil, you can feel that dome. So I'm just going to color in this entire part of the iris. I apologize if it doesn't come across well on screen, but you'll get to see it very well in just a second. I'm going to turn up the brightness a little bit more, turn up the saturation just a little bit more, start to really see that come across. And another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of shine on the outside of that iris as well. I'm going to turn the size of the brush down. And I'm just going to go along the edge a little bit. Next, let's turn it up even more. Turn up the brightness, turn up that saturation, especially on these lighter areas. Let's see, I forgot to turn the size of that back up. Let's turn it up a little bit. All right. There we go. Now, I'm going to turn the brightness all the way up. Make that incredibly saturated. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, brush size a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go in pretty much where those areas I had a shine in right there. And that's looking pretty decent. So now I have brightness all the way up. So where am I supposed to go now? Both brightness and saturation all the way up. What am I supposed to do? Well, at this point, I can go even brighter. All the way to white. Nope, not quite yet. I'm just going to turn saturation back down while keeping that brightness all the way up. And bring that in. Alright, so now we have something even brighter right there. Now we actually have a few choices here. That is one way I can do it, but I really don't want to kind of dull the way that eye looks. I want to make that eye really pop. So I'm actually going to go backwards a little here, undo all that. I'm going to put saturation back. Now what I'm going to do instead is mess around with the hue. Which one's a brighter hue to go with? Let's go with cyan, just like what you demonstrated in the last episode. So I'm going to take that cyan, take that brush, and color in where those areas I originally erased were at. Alright? And that's going to add that shine right there. I think that's looking a lot more lifelike. I would say so. So we have our cyan. Let's go a little bit more into it. About there, about there, about there. And that's looking pretty decent. Now at this point I don't want to make it, if I keep moving the hue it's going to go into that green, which I don't want. So now's the point where we can turn down the saturation and we get an even brighter color. Not so much bright, so let's turn it down even more. So about there. Make these little bits of shine come through. So I think that's looking pretty decent right there. Let's zoom out and see what we got. I'd say that is a pretty lifelike looking eye right there. So say that we want to make something a little bit more realistic. Let's take this away, take that away, and I'm going to turn on one of these very simple sketches right here, but we're going to turn this into a more realistic eye. Alright, so same thing we're going to do before. I'm going to put a layer underneath that. What we're going to do is we're going to make a completely achromatic eye. So I'm going to turn down the saturation all the way, so all we're going to be using are shades of black and white here. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to start by establishing the background. We're going to do this kind of dark to mid gray right here. We're going to try to stay away from these ranges right here, from about 70 to 100 right here. We are going to just use 0 to 70 because the darker that shade is, the more your eye is able to discern it. Now I could go through a whole thing where I actually talk about human evolution, how the eye is better at discerning shadows and highlights, and then the eye can't go backwards as far as determining light. Anyway, let me stop all that. What we're going to do is we're going to start with that mid-gray, maybe about 35, that's pretty good. And I'm going to completely fill that up with a pixel layer. Alright, so we have our background, and this makes it easier so we can discern those lights and shadows. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate layer. I'm going to select the soft round opacity right there. Actually, you know what? Let me actually do the hard round first. Let's turn this up. Like I said, so I'm not going to go past 70. I'm going to go about 66, and I'm going to have this represent what white is going to be as far as what our subject is. So the white of the eye is going to be this shade. Okay, so next I'm going to do the iris. I'm going to use a slightly darker shade here. And next I'm going to do the pupil. I'm going to make it completely black. Just maybe about right here. And just so it's dark enough so I can actually see that center. Now, I'm not going to worry so much about the tear ducts with the bigger tear duct over here. Well, actually, just in general, that's going to be a tear duct. So this is going to be a, what is it? If I turn around, that is a right eye, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, close to the nose would be over here. So yeah, that's the right eye. I wouldn't worry so much about coloring outside the lines as well, because you can just erase what you don't need at the very end. Okay, since I have a touch screen, I'm going to hold and pick up the color of the iris right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it slightly darker. About there, that's good. Now, I'm going to take the soft round opacity brush, turn its size down, and about right there is good. And give that soft airbrush effect looking right there. Now, like I said, we can go outside the lines. We're just going to erase what we don't need. If you're doing this on an actual character, then yeah, you want to be a little more careful. But for now, it's just a demonstration. Alright, so I'm going to do that on the outside and on the inside. Let's even that up just a little bit. Now I'm actually going to do just a slight bit in on the upper and lower eyelids, because we kind of want to show that 3D effect of shadows being cast above and below the eye. Actually, I guess I'll just go ahead and do that for the whites of the eyes right here as well, just a little bit in. Alright, so we have a 3D, somewhat 3D looking eye right here. If it doesn't look perfect, don't worry, we can go back and just redo what we need to do. Next is we're going to take a lighter shade of that iris, brush just slightly bigger, and go along the inside of that iris right there. Next, I'm going to make that even lighter and make that brush even sharper. Now I'm just going to do little bits of this middle layer right here to kind of make that eye look kind of wet. Alright. So now at this point, you can either just keep it as this, or you can, if you want to really add that texture, if you have a blending brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down to the completely transparent color right here. Now I'm going to use the detailer mixer brush right here. About 15 is pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around. I'm going to go around this iris. And the most important thing that you need to do here is make sure that pretty much that the radius right here lines up as you're going around. So I'm going to go there, go there. I'm actually going to do individual parts right here, because just zigzagging back and forth, it's very easy to lose track of making sure that you're staying on that radius. Here, up and down, try to make that vertical. Same here. Now I'm going to go around. So now you have those guides, you can just go around like this, and you can really get that texture in. Alright, you're going to go back around again. Let's zoom out and see what we got. That's some pretty decent iris texture right there. Do a little bit more blending right here. Let me turn this up. It was a little tough to see since, actually there was no preview there since there's no color. We're going to darken this a bit. Let's go down to, yep, about 17. That's pretty good. Let's make this pupil a little bit darker, including that center right there. Alright, so now, next thing I want to do is I'm going to make that iris just a little bit brighter. I'm going to pick up a color from it, a little bit of one of the lighter shades. Alright, pretty good. I'm still on the soft round opacity brush. I'm going to take that and turn the size up, turn the brightness up. Not going to go past that 70. And once again, just going to go around. I think we're going to make that brush size a little bigger. There we go. That's what we want. Alright, so we're making that brighter. Going around there. Let's zoom out, see what we got. Yep, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so we have our texture. We have the shine of the iris right there. Let's adjust the sclera, which is the Y of the eye, a bit. So I'm going to pick up this color right here. Let's even out. Let's see. There we go. So I'm going to even out some of this uneven shading. Now, as far as the middle of that eye, I'm actually going to go just a little bit past that 70 mark, just to make that a little bit brighter. There we go. Actually, to make that really come through, let's turn down the size of the brush. There we go. Now, I'm not even going to go all the way to the end right here. I'm just going to start right here and then color. Just shade that in. A little bit of tint on both sides. Just really drive home the idea that this is a ball that's sitting in the middle of your skull. Let's see. I think we're even out that shadow by starting there. And let's see. There we go. Actually, there should be shadow like up top right there, because light typically casts down on top of your face, like either the sun or ceiling lights. So you do want kind of that upper part to be a darker shadow. There we go. We're gonna do a little bit just on the bottom. Now, you probably can't tell too much from what it looks like right here, but I'm just trying to let the very edge of this brush just touch the bottom of that eye. I know this all looks terrible right now, but don't worry, we're going somewhere with this. Alright, next thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually add another layer. And what I'm going to do is select, maybe not white completely, but I'm going to go past that 70 threshold. Let's see. Yep, right there. That's pretty good. And let's turn this down. I'm going to have to let it shine about that much. Alright, let's see what that looks like if I press in there. I don't think I like that, mostly because of the line art. That's the problem. So let me undo that. This new layer I'm going to put above the line art layer. It just merged, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to take the line art and move that down. There we go, that's what I want to see. Alright, so now let's turn this down a bit. And now add that shine right there. So now it's over the line art, so that line art's not poking through like this. Yep, breaking the illusion. Now I got that one bit of shine right there. I'm going to turn the size of the next one down. I'm going to add another one right here, and maybe another one right about here. And I think that's looking pretty decent right there. Let's zoom out. Look how realistic that looks. Now, what we need to do is get rid of all this extra darkness that's around the eye here. Alright? So instead of just straight up erasing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a layer mask. Okay, so now I have the layer, and I have the mask right here. If it's white, that means all the pixels in that area are showing. If it's black, that means those pixels are completely invisible. Shades of gray, pretty much. If it's a darker shade, the less of it's going to show. If it's a lighter shade, the more of it's going to show. Down here I have the option of reveal or hide layer. Right now I'm going to have it say hide layer. And I'm going to take one of the hard round brushes and just go along. Okay, I don't like it when it shows red. Hold on. There we go, on layers. So now is getting rid of all of that. Yep, we're even going to turn that because of the natural curve of how I draw. This is pretty much a non-destructive edit, which means that although I am erasing technically, I'm not really getting rid of any of the pixels that are actually on that layer, because all I have to do is turn the mask off. Where's the thing that's letting me to turn? It's letting me turn the mask. What's up, baby girl? Hello. Okay, so now I have a little special guest with me. I have Miney right here with me. So that's your Minecraft name. That's why I call you on this, at least. There we go, that's what it is. Okay, so because it's non-destructive, all I gotta do is turn the mask off and on right here, and it brings those pixels back. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep erasing. Let's turn this to the other side. Once again, natural curve. Now, okay, so we have this final result right here. If I zoom all the way out, pretty natural looking eye right there. We have the iris, have our pupil with a shine in the middle of it. We have the texture that we need. We have the sclera, or once again the white of the eye, showing a 3D effect with just that shine right there in the middle. If you want to go a little bit further, I'm going to go back to that shine layer. I'm going to turn that down. I'm going to turn the size down. I'm going to turn the brightness up pretty much to 100. And what I'm going to do is, actually I'm going to turn the size down just a little bit more, about 21. That's pretty good. Zoom back in so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to just add just little specks right here. Let me see, am I still on hard round? Ah, okay. I was like, why is that not looking right to me? Alright, let's turn to soft. I want soft round opacity is what I need. The difference between soft round and soft round opacity is the harder I press, the bigger the brush is going to be. So, and I don't want it to be too much, so I'm just going to do some slight taps in there, across the eye. It's looking pretty good. Now, this big shine right here, I'm going to press more of that pure white into it. Now let's zoom out. Now remember, the eye, as far as your characters go, it's usually a very, very, very small part of the artwork. However, when you're looking at characters or you're looking at people, the eye is the first thing you're going to. Like, that's kind of amazing considering like the whole surface area that the eye actually takes up. That just has that much importance. Alright, so that is our basic monochrome eye. Now, next thing I'm going to do, put some skin around this eye. Why don't we? I'm just going to very gently go above and below it. I'm just going to tap those eyelids in, because pretty much what I'm aiming to do here is shape the eye, shape the skin around that eye, where it has to kind of bulge out a little bit. Alright, now, next thing I'm going to do is for the upper eyelid, I'm going to make it a little bit darker, just going a little bit by little bit. Let's turn the size of this down and really get into that upper eyelid right there. Now for the lower eyelid, we're going to do a bit of the same. We're going to try to be a little tighter. There we go. Normally this is the part where I would start blending, but I want to make this simple for you. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and really try to get into that wrinkle. I'm actually going to undo what I just did, and then I'm going to make this even darker. Once again, natural curve of how you draw. Tune in a little more here. Just make this a little bit wider. I can go back with an even darker shade if I need to. Let's put a little bit of wrinkle right there. Let's go a little bit out right there. Let's try again. Gonna make that about there, about there. That's pretty good. Alright, now to add a little bit of 3D effect, let me pick up some of that shade. Let's even that out some. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a brighter shade. Let's turn this up a bit. And let's turn the size of this shine up a little here and go across pretty much where the iris is. We're doing that once again to drive home the fact that this is a 3D shape. So I went a little up outside the iris there. I'm going to focus more on this area right here. I can make that a little bit brighter. Same as below the eye. Alright, let's zoom out, see what we got. That is looking like a wet eyeball inside of somebody's head right there. We're going to come back over here and mess around with the tear duct. Let's make that little fleshy pink part right there. Just going to draw a little bit over it. Same on the other side, but not as much. So pretty much at this point, what you want to do is kind of just drawing some eyelashes. But we're not going to go too much into that. I'll save that tutorial for another time. And it's actually looking pretty decent coming from an original sketch. Let's turn off everything so we can see where we came from. So that's how we started, and this is where we're at. That is pretty good. Alright, so I'd say that's how we get a pretty realistic eye there. We're just going to do a few more finishing touches. It's like the area that's closest to the nose. There's always just that little bit of brightness, like right there. We'll shade in just a little bit of the nose here. Not going to draw the whole thing or anything like that, just enough so you can discern what's well over here. Also, one other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of shade at the top right here, pretty much to try to discern where the eyebrow is. Pretty much that bone that like starts like about right here, and you can do the same below as well. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to pick up some of this color and tighten that a little, and we're going to bring that over here. I'm going to actually get rid of some of this. We're going to turn this up a little, just to kind of give it a little bit of gradient from the eye to the nose. And have this shine come down right about here. And we're going to add a little bit on this side as well. We're going to tighten up a few of these details. Honestly, remember, you can just keep drawing over and over, just layering on top of what you do and don't need. We're going to brighten up the area where the nose is a bit. Let's pick up about right there. We're going to brighten it just a little bit. There we go. Make that brush bigger. You can kind of see that that nose is about to come through, like about right there. Let's do like one little... Actually, you know what? Just kind of bring that, just kind of bring it home right here. I'm just going to kind of draw in that shape right there and brighten it a little bit more. I didn't mean to make a whole face tutorial here, but I'm doing it, so here's your bonus. This is what happens when you become an artist. You can just start doing stuff and get carried away. I'm going to add a little bit of forehead right there. Yeah, let's get that thing out of the way. And just like that, we already have like a whole face texture. Oh, she made. Oh, she drew her own little eye as well. I love this. See, this stuff's pretty contagious right here. Like I said, I didn't really mean to make an entire face tutorial right here. And you can see I'm just doing this by doing a little bit of light airbrushing here and there. And I'd say that's pretty realistic right there. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more. Sorry, I'm getting a little carried away now. Like, this lesson is completely off the rails at this point. But hey.
What about the eyebrow?
I'm going to stay away from the eyebrows for right now. I'm just going to bring this in. You should have seen how I started this episode. Like, I was having a hard time like getting into the groove of it. Okay, let's see here. Alright, let's tighten up a few details here where I'm going to make that a little bit fuzzy. Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Like, make some stuff a little fuzzier so it comes across as a little bit more realistic. You know what? I think I just need to stop here. Let's stop while we're ahead. Why don't we? Alright, so this is... I got the little golf clap from Miney over here. Thank you very much, baby girl. Alright, so I think this pretty much wraps up our eye tutorial for right now. I'm going to... Actually, I think I'm going to do a part 2 of this, where we're going to do this, but we're actually going to do it in color as well. So we got our basic color tutorial, where you colorize a sketch. Then we have our realistic eye here. Let's do a 2-in-1 next time. How about that? But in the meantime, if you want to help get yourself to this point, there is a digital worksheet that you can use called How to Draw an Eye. It's right there on lifeforever3.com. You can get it right now in the Life Forever shop. There are new episodes on the 3rd of every month. Subscribe right now to get notified when they drop. Also be sure to check out D4S Q&A. I take some of the most basic and some of the most advanced illustration questions on the internet and give you guys some short answers to them. So until next time, let's see, Mina, you got anything to say before we close out? That's fine. Alright, so move the media. Peace.